You prayed for it, you asked for it, you dreamed about it, and when it finally showed up at your door, you pretended you weren't home. You've done this. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That opportunity you talked yourself out of, that compliment you deflected so quickly, it never had a chance to land. That love you kept at arm's length because something in you whispered, this can't be real. This isn't for you. You've spent years wondering why the good things seem to pass you by. Why other people seem to receive so effortlessly while you struggle. Why your prayers feel unanswered, your dreams feel distant, your blessings feel blocked. But here's what I want you to consider today. What if nothing is being withheld from you? What if the universe hasn't forgotten your address? What if the very things you've been asking for have been trying to reach you all along and you've been the one turning them away? What if you are blocking your own blessings? Not intentionally, not maliciously, but habitually, unconsciously, in ways so subtle you don't even recognize you're doing it. I want to take you on a journey today, a journey inward. Because until you understand how you've been standing in your own way, you'll keep standing there. And the blessings will keep piling up outside a door you refuse to open. Let's begin with something you do every single day without realizing it. You receive a compliment. Maybe someone tells you that you look nice, or that you did good work, or that they appreciate you. And what do? You deflect it. Oh, this old thing? It was on sale. It wasn't just me. The whole team helped. You're too kind. It was nothing, really. Notice what happened there. The universe sent you a gift. A small one, yes, but a gift nonetheless. Someone looked at you and saw something beautiful, something valuable, something worthy of acknowledgement, and you handed it back. You said, no, thank you. I couldn't possibly accept this. You've been doing this your entire life. With compliments, with help, with opportunities, with love. Someone extends something towards you, and your first instinct, your automatic, unexamined, deeply ingrained instinct is to push it away. Why do you do this? Because somewhere along the way, you learned that you weren't supposed to receive. You learned that wanting things was selfish. You learned that accepting good things meant you were taking something from someone else. You learned that the humble thing, the polite thing, the safe thing was to make yourself small. Think about where you learned this. Maybe it was a parent who grew up during hard times and taught you that scarcity was normal. Maybe it was a religious teaching that got twisted somewhere along the way, making you believe that your desires were something to be ashamed of. Maybe it was a culture that confused humility with self-denial, that told you good people don't ask for much. Whatever the source, you absorbed a message, and that message became a belief, and that belief became a habit, and that habit became invisible. Now you push blessings away without even knowing you're doing it. It's as natural to you as breathing. And you wonder why life feels so hard. Have you noticed this pattern in yourself? Can you see it now that I'm naming it? Let me show you something else. Something that might be uncomfortable to look at, but I believe you're ready to see it. You have an internal thermostat. Not for temperature for good, for how much joy, abundance, success, and love you believe you're allowed to experience. This thermostat was set a long time ago, probably in childhood, probably without your conscious participation. And it determines everything. When life tries to give you more than your thermostat allows, you get uncomfortable. Something in you starts to panic. And you find ways, creative ways, unconscious ways, self-sabotaging ways to bring yourself back down to the level you're used to. Think about it. Have you ever had something wonderful happen and immediately your mind started looking for what could go wrong? Have you ever received unexpected money and found a way to spend it or lose it almost immediately? Have you ever met someone who treated you beautifully and found yourself picking fights or pulling away? That's not bad luck. That's not coincidence. That's your thermostat doing its job. It's keeping you at the temperature you've always known, even when that temperature is too cold for the life you actually want. Here's what's fascinating about this. Your thermostat doesn't care if you're comfortable. It only cares if you're familiar. It will keep you in poverty if poverty is what you know. It will keep you in loneliness if loneliness is your normal. It will keep you stuck in struggle because struggle is the territory you've mapped, the landscape you understand. The unknown, even when the unknown is wonderful, feels dangerous to this part of you. So you stay where you are. And you tell yourself it's because life is hard, because you're unlucky, because blessings are for other people, people who deserve them more than you do. But that's not the truth. That's just the story your thermostat needs you to believe so it can keep doing its job. I want you to think about a time when you were on the verge of something good. Maybe it was a relationship that was going well. Maybe it was a job opportunity that seemed perfect. Maybe it was a period in your life when things were finally starting to come together. And then something happened. You found a reason to doubt it. You discovered a flaw. You created a problem where there wasn't one. Or you simply withdrew, pulled back, disappeared into yourself just when you should have been stepping forward. You might have blamed external circumstances. You might have told yourself the timing wasn't right, or the other person wasn't who you thought they were, or the opportunity wasn't as good as it seemed. But deep down, if you're honest with yourself, you know the truth. You got scared. Not of failure, of success, not of losing, of having, not of being rejected, of being accepted. Because if you were accepted, if you succeeded, if you had what you wanted, you would have to become someone new, someone who has things, someone who receives love, someone who lives in abundance instead of lack. And that person felt like a stranger to you. So you retreated back to the version of yourself you recognize. The one who struggles. The one who almost gets there, but not quite. The one who watches blessings pass by and wonders why. This is self-sabotage. But it's not a character flaw. It's a protection mechanism. Your psyche is trying to keep you safe by keeping you small. It doesn't understand that what it's protecting you from is exactly what you need. Here's what's interesting about all of this. You've probably spent a lot of time trying to attract good things into your life. You've visualized, you've affirmed, you've set intentions. You've done vision boards and gratitude journals and positive thinking exercises. And maybe some of it worked, but probably not as much as you hoped. Here's why. Attraction isn't your problem. Reception is. You can attract all the blessings in the world, but if you can't receive them, they'll bounce right off you. They'll sit outside your door, waiting while you peer through the peephole and pretend no one's there. Receiving is a skill. It's a capacity. And for most people, it's severely underdeveloped. Think about how much practice you've had in giving. You've been taught to give since you were a child. Share your toys. Help others. Be generous. Put other people first. Now think about how much practice you've had in receiving. Almost none. In fact, you've probably been taught that receiving is somehow lesser, that it's better to give than to receive, that needing something from someone else is a weakness. So you became an expert at giving, and you became terrible at receiving. And now you wonder why your life feels out of balance, why you feel depleted, why the blessings don't seem to flow your way. They're flowing. You're just not catching them. Stop for a moment. Really hear what I'm saying. When was the last time someone offered you help and you actually took it? Not reluctantly, not with apologies and disclaimers, but simply, gracefully, with an open heart. When was the last time something good happened and you let yourself fully enjoy it? Without waiting for the other shoe to drop? Without minimizing it? Without immediately moving on to the next thing you needed to worry about? When was the last time you let yourself be seen? Really seen? Without hiding behind your roles and your accomplishments and your carefully constructed image? If you're struggling to remember, that tells you something important. It tells you that your receiver is broken. It tells you that the blessing pipeline is clogged on your end. It tells you that no matter how much you pray for abundance, you've been praying with closed hands. Now I want to go deeper. I want to show you the mechanism behind all of this. Because once you understand why you block your blessings, you can begin to stop. There's a part of you that I call the ego. Now, I don't mean ego in the way most people use that word arrogance, self-importance, thinking you're better than others. I mean something more subtle than that. The ego is the idea you have about who you are. It's the collection of beliefs and assumptions and stories that make up your sense of self. It's the voice in your head that's always commenting, always judging, always comparing. And here's the thing about the ego. It's terrified of change. Your ego has spent your entire life constructing an identity. It knows who you are, it knows what you're capable of, it knows what you deserve, and it will fight to protect that identity even when that identity is making you miserable. If you grew up believing you were someone who struggles, your ego will make sure you keep struggling. If you internalize the message that you're not quite good enough, your ego will find evidence of that everywhere you look. If you decided somewhere along the way that you don't deserve abundance, your ego will sabotage every opportunity for abundance that comes your way. It's not doing this to hurt you, it's doing this to protect you. Because to your ego, the unknown is death. Even if the unknown is wonderful, even if the unknown is everything you've ever wanted, your ego would rather keep you safe and small than risk the terrifying possibility that you might be bigger than you believed. There's an old story about an elephant. When the elephant is young, it's tied to a small stake in the ground with a rope. The baby elephant pulls and struggles, but it's not strong enough to break free. Eventually, it stops trying. It learns that the stake is more powerful than it is. Years later, that elephant is fully grown. It could easily pull the stake out of the ground. It could snap the rope with barely any effort, but it doesn't even try because it learned long ago that escape was impossible. The limitation that was once real has become an illusion, but the elephant still believes it. You are that elephant. The things that once held you back, the criticism, the rejection, the messages of unworthiness, they were real ones. They had power over you when you were small and dependent and still forming your sense of self. But you're not small anymore. You're not dependent anymore. You have the strength to pull up any stake, to snap any rope, to walk away from any limitation. The only thing keeping you tied is your belief that you're still tied. Here's what changes everything. Here's what I want you to carry with you long after you've forgotten everything else I've said. You cannot become worthy. You already are. Let that land for a moment. You've been operating under the assumption that worthiness is something you earn. That if you work hard enough, achieve enough, give enough, sacrifice enough, you'll finally cross some invisible finish line and become deserving of the good things you want. But that's a lie. It's the ego's favorite lie, because it keeps you perpetually striving, perpetually falling short, perpetually dependent on external validation. The truth is simpler and more radical. You were born worthy before you accomplished anything, before you proved anything, before you even had a name. You came into this world as a spark of the divine, and that spark never dimmed. You just forgot it was there. You don't have to earn your blessings. You have to remember that they were always yours. Think about a newborn baby. Does that baby need to accomplish anything to deserve love? Does that baby need to prove itself worthy of care, of nourishment, of warmth? Of course not. The baby simply is, and that isness is enough. You were that baby once. And the only thing that's changed is that you've accumulated a lifetime of conditioning telling you that you're not enough anymore, that you have to earn what was freely given. But the conditioning is not the truth. The conditioning is just noise. And beneath all that noise, the original truth remains. You are worthy. You always were. You always will be. Your blessings aren't withheld because you haven't earned them. They're blocked because you don't believe you can have them. But here's what nobody talks about. Here's the part that makes this difficult. Recognizing your worthiness is terrifying. Because if you're worthy, if you've always been worthy, then you can no longer hide behind unworthiness. You can no longer use "I'm not good enough" as an excuse for not pursuing your dreams. You can no longer blame the universe for withholding what you've actually been refusing. If you're worthy, then you're responsible. Fully, completely, unavoidably responsible for the life you're living. That's a heavy thing to accept. It's much easier to believe that forces outside yourself are keeping you stuck. It's much more comfortable to be a victim of circumstance than an author of experience. So you cling to unworthiness, not because it serves you, but because it's familiar, because it gives you permission to stay small, because it protects you from the terrifying freedom of knowing you can have whatever you're willing to receive. This is why so many people resist their own healing. This is why you might be feeling resistance right now, even as something in you recognizes the truth of what I'm saying. The ego doesn't want you to be free. It wants you to be safe. And it has confused the two. Let me share something I've observed about the way the universe works. There's a flow, a constant, inexhaustible flow of abundance, love, creativity, and opportunity. This flow doesn't play favorites. It doesn't check your credentials. It doesn't consult your past to determine your future. It simply flows everywhere, all the time, to everyone. You are standing in that flow right now. It's moving all around you, offering you more than you could ever use. The question is not whether the flow exists. The question is whether you're open to it. Imagine you're standing in a river. The water is rushing past you, clean and clear and life-giving. But your arms are crossed. Your fists are clenched. Your body is rigid with resistance. How much water can you receive in that posture? Almost none. It flows around you, past you, beyond you, and you stay thirsty, wondering why the river doesn't seem to be working. This is what you've been doing with your blessings, standing in the middle of abundance with your arms crossed, wondering why you feel so deprived. The river isn't the problem. Your posture is the problem. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. This isn't just a nice saying. It's a description of how reality actually works. Your perception shapes your experience. What you expect to see, you see. What you believe to be true, you find evidence for. If you believe you're someone who doesn't receive blessings, you'll interpret your life through that lens. The opportunities will look like burdens. The compliments will sound like lies. The love will feel like a trap, not because they are, but because that's how your filter works. But if you shift the filter, if you begin to see yourself as someone who naturally receives, someone who is aligned with abundance, someone who deserves good things, your entire experience transforms. The same events that once looked like rejection will look like redirection. The same circumstances that once felt like obstacles will feel like opportunities. The same life that once seemed barren will reveal itself to be overflowing. Nothing outside you needs to change for this transformation to occur. You just need to see differently, and you can start right now. So how do you change your posture? How do you open your arms? How do you unclench your fists and let the blessings in? It begins with awareness. Simple, non-judgmental awareness. You start by watching yourself. You become a curious observer of your own patterns. When someone offers you a compliment, you notice, what is my first impulse? To deflect? To minimize? To change the subject? You don't judge yourself for it, you just notice. When an opportunity appears, you notice, what stories am I telling myself? That I'm not ready? That it's too good to be true? That someone else deserves it more? You don't try to force yourself to think differently, you just observe. When love reaches toward you, you notice, am I opening or closing? Am I leaning in or pulling away? Am I making excuses or making room? This observation isn't about fixing yourself. You don't need to be fixed. It's about seeing clearly, because you can't change a pattern you can't see. So here's what you do. Starting today, not someday, today, you practice receiving. You start small. Someone compliments you, you say thank you. That's it, just thank you. You don't explain why the compliment isn't quite accurate. You don't redirect attention to someone else. You don't make a self-deprecating joke. You just receive it. Someone offers you help, you take it, even if you could do it yourself, even if it makes you feel slightly uncomfortable, even if part of you is screaming that you should be able to handle everything on your own. You let yourself be supported. Something good happens, you let yourself feel it, fully, without immediately bracing for impact, without scanning the horizon for threats, without minimizing it or moving on too quickly. You let the goodness land. This will feel strange at first. It might even feel wrong. That's your thermostat screaming that you're moving into unfamiliar territory. That's your ego panicking because its identity is being threatened. Let it scream. Let it panic. Keep receiving anyway. Because every time you receive, every time you let a blessing in instead of pushing it away, you're reprogramming decades of conditioning. You're raising your thermostat. You're expanding your capacity for good. Here's a practice you can do tonight. Before you fall asleep, I want you to review your day, and I want you to find one moment, just one, where you blocked a blessing. Maybe someone tried to acknowledge you and you deflected it. Maybe you had a chance to rest and you told yourself you didn't have time. Maybe something made you happy and you immediately started worrying about something else. Find that moment. Replay it in your mind. And now, imagine yourself responding differently. Imagine yourself opening instead of closing. Imagine yourself saying yes instead of no. Imagine yourself receiving fully, without apology, without resistance, without shame. This isn't about regret. It's about rehearsal. You're training yourself to be a receiver. And what you practice in your imagination, you'll begin to live in your waking life. There's something else I want you to understand about this practice. It's not a one-time event. You're not going to do this tonight and wake up tomorrow completely transformed. This is a gradual unfolding, a gentle rewiring. You've spent decades learning to block. You won't unlearn it in a single evening. But here's what's beautiful about the process. Every small act of receiving builds on the last. Every time you accept a compliment without deflecting, you create a tiny crack in the wall you've built around yourself. Every time you let someone help you, that crack widens. Every time you allow yourself to feel joy without immediately bracing for disaster, you're letting more light in. And over time, not overnight, but over time, the wall begins to crumble, the thermostat begins to rise, the door begins to open. You don't have to force this. You don't have to strain or struggle or push yourself to transform faster than you're ready to. The universe is infinitely patient. Your blessings aren't going anywhere. They'll wait for you. They've been waiting for you your whole life. All you have to do is start. One small receiving at a time. I want to speak to something you might be feeling right now. You might be thinking, this sounds wonderful, but you don't understand my situation. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know how hard it is for me. And you're right. I don't know your specific story. I don't know the particular wounds you carry or the specific walls you've built. But I do know this. Whatever you've been through, it doesn't disqualify you from receiving. Whatever has happened to you, it doesn't make you unworthy of blessings. In fact, the opposite is true. The more you've struggled, the more you've suffered, the more the universe wants to pour into you, not as compensation, not as a reward for enduring hardship, but because that's simply the nature of how things work. Where there is emptiness, life wants to fill it. Where there is lack, abundance wants to flow. You've created a lot of space in yourself through your struggles. Space that's been waiting to be filled with something good. The question is whether you'll let it be filled or whether you'll keep that space empty out of habit, out of fear, out of a belief that empty is all you're allowed to have. Your past doesn't determine your capacity to receive. Your wounds don't disqualify you from blessings. If anything, they've prepared you. They've made you ready for something beautiful that you couldn't have held before. Let me tell you what happens when you begin to receive. When you truly open yourself to the blessings that have been waiting for you. At first it feels uncomfortable, foreign, almost dangerous. Your ego will scream that something is wrong. Your thermostat will try to bring you back down. You'll be tempted to sabotage, to deflect, to return to the familiar territory of not quite enough. But if you stay with it, if you keep receiving despite the discomfort, something remarkable begins to happen. You start to realize that receiving doesn't deplete anything. It doesn't take from anyone else. It doesn't make you greedy or selfish or undeserving. In fact, the more you receive, the more you have to give. The more blessings you let in, the more blessings flow through you to others. You become a channel instead of a dam, a river instead of a reservoir. Life moves through you, touching everyone you encounter, blessing others in ways you never could when you were blocked. This is the great secret that your ego doesn't want you to know. Receiving is generous. Opening yourself to blessings is an act of service. When you allow yourself to be filled, you become a source of filling for others. The most loving thing you can do for yourself, for your family, for the world, is to stop blocking what's trying to reach you. There's a question I want you to sit with. Not answer right away, just sit with. What would your life look like if you truly believed you were worthy of receiving? Not if you hoped you were worthy. Not if you tried to convince yourself you were worthy. But if you knew it, deep in your bones, the way you know your own name, what would change? Would you still stay in that job that drains you? Would you still accept crumbs in your relationships? Would you still put yourself last on every list, as if your needs were an afterthought? Or would you begin to make different choices? Would you begin to ask for what you actually want? Would you begin to expect good things, not arrogantly, but naturally, the way a flower expects sunlight? This is what's at stake here. This isn't just about feeling better, it's about living differently. It's about becoming the person you were always meant to be, before the world convinced you to be smaller. You came here today carrying a question. Even if you didn't know you were carrying it, it was there. The question was, why does life feel so hard? Why do the blessings seem to pass me by? Why am I still waiting for something that feels like it should have arrived by now? And now, you have an answer. Not the answer you expected, perhaps, but maybe the answer you needed. The blessings aren't late. The universe hasn't forgotten you. The flow of abundance hasn't dried up. You've just been standing in the river with your arms crossed, wondering why you're thirsty. But you can uncross them. Right now, today, you can open your hands and let the water in. Here's the one truth I want you to take from everything I've said. You are not broken. You don't need to be fixed or healed or improved before you can receive the good that's waiting for you. You simply need to remember what you forgot, that you are worthy, that you always were, that the blessings are already here, already flowing, already yours. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you change the way you look at yourself, when you see yourself as worthy, as deserving, as a natural receiver of good, the blessings you've been blocking will begin to flow into your life with an ease that will astonish you, not because the universe changed, because you did. Tonight, before you sleep, do this one thing. Think of something you've been wanting, something you've been praying for, something that feels just out of reach. And instead of asking for it again, try something different. Try saying, I am ready to receive this. I am open to this. I release whatever in me has been blocking this. Say it out loud if you can. Let your voice carry the intention into the room, into the air, into the field of infinite possibility that surrounds you always. And then let go. Trust that the river knows where to flow. Trust that what's meant for you is making its way toward you. Trust that your only job is to stay open. You don't have to figure out how the blessing will come. You don't have to orchestrate the details or force the timing. The universe is far more creative than your mind could ever be. Your job is simply to remain available, to keep your hands open, to stay soft where you've been hard, receptive where you've been resistant, trusting where you've been afraid. Your blessings aren't blocked by the universe. They've been blocked by a belief. And beliefs can change. You can change. You're changing right now, just by hearing this, just by recognizing what you've been doing, just by choosing in this moment to receive. The door is there. It's always been there. The blessings are waiting on the other side, patient, abundant, inexhaustible. They've been knocking for years, decades maybe, and you've been pretending you couldn't hear them. But you hear them now. You feel them now. You know they're there. And now, finally, you're ready to open it. Open it, let everything in.